By replacing politics with violence, terrorism can have a destabilizing effect on civil society, posing a threat to democracy or legitimately constituted governments. A highly complex and constantly changing phenomenon, terrorism stands at the forefront of national and international agendas. Sheikh Said Raage was born in Somalia, raised in Saudi Arabia, and in the late 80s found his way to North America. He holds a BA in Islamic Studies as well as Masters in Sharia from the Institute of Islamic and Arabic Sciences in Fairfax, Virginia. Over the years, he has held several posts, including founder of Masjid Huda in Montreal, Masjid Aya in Maryland, Muslim Youth Magazine, and the AXA Association. And of course, this morning, we train our focus on terrorism, which has actually adversely affected this country. We want to really get a definition on terrorism. How does it adversely affect our country? Where is the origin or the place where terrorism started? We delve deeper today, and you'll be telling us from a scholarly perspective on how we can tackle terrorism, what is terrorism, and how does it hang together with Islam? Is it disjointed away from terrorism? A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us on AM Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Right, Sheikh, thank you. We're having you in the country is good, and of course there is a conference which is ongoing. You'll tell us more about it later, but we want to train our focus this morning on terrorism, which is adversely affecting this country. And of course, defining terrorism has been a holy grail. There is no any unclear definition on terrorism. From your take, what is terrorism?
Well, terrorism, number one, is not linked to individuals or to a faith or to a certain group of people or to a certain group or countries.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone who brings terror in the hearts of the people, regardless of his color, regardless of his religion, regardless of his background, regardless of his education, is a terrorist. Now, if someone gets into one of these public transportation and he shows a weapon, he's terrorizing the innocent people who came out of their homes, going to their lives, going to work, going to school. We consider that person terrorizing innocent individuals. Now, that is what terrorism should be, mm-hmm. and that is how it was always been. Mm-hmm. When the Japanese were attacking, Americans and all this, we never called them terrorists. Mm-hmm. They were the first one who came up with the idea of suicide bombing. Mm-hmm. In the history, if I'm sure you know and aware of that. However, after September 11, the war of terrorism being a slogan, something that a lot of media labeled only on Muslims. Right now, if someone somewhere in Canada, where I live or where I'm from, mm-hmm. if for whatever reason he comes and he blows up a bank or a building, we would not consider that, and he is not a Muslim, mm-hmm. we will not consider that as an act of terrorism, mm-hmm. even though he terrorized innocent people, mm-hmm. he killed innocent people, he victimized innocent people. However, if a Muslim who may not be even practicing, mm-hmm. may not even have anything to do with Islam, he himself is a lost cause. But simply he's carrying a Muslim name, mm-hmm. and he does something that is not intelligent, then we will say it was an act of terrorism. Now, nowadays, the definition of terrorism is equal to Muslim or Islam, mm-hmm. which is the wrong definition. Anyone who terrorizes simple, innocent people should label as a terrorist, mm-hmm. regardless, I repeat, of his faith, religion, education, background, color of his skin. He should not be labeled as a criminal. And a person who does this should not be labeled criminal.
Yes. But
when Muslim does, should not be labeled terrorist.
Right.
That is unfair labeling. But what I would say, let us say, consider a country, A, Y, Z, any country. that is abusing innocent people as well. Should we consider that as a country of terrorism?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the media and the general public must understand and differentiate that when a Muslim does a crime, he's a criminal, but not terrorist. When a Jew person does a crime, he's a criminal, but he should not be labeled as terrorist. When a Christian does something like that, he should be labeled as criminal, not a terrorist. So the religion should be out of this, and we should label and judge people based on their actions.
All right, but general perception given right now is that terrorism is attached to Islam, isn't it? And of course, it shouldn't be that way, as you are mentioning, but the damage is already there. Then how do we get to try and sanitize your name away from terrorism?
In early 60s, 70s, and those times when African Americans were fighting for their rights, and they were called the N-word, uneducated, ignorant, so on. What did they do? They did something that everybody had to show respect, which is educating the masses about themselves, showing that just because you're black, you're not an ignorant person, and you should not be called the N-word. Simply because you're from, African background,
yes,
it should not, make you less than anyone else. Likewise, for Muslims, we need to educate, and the Muslims themselves need to educate the rest of the world. Just because after September 11th, for whatever reason, everybody has their own agenda, that name or that title was somehow stuck to the Muslims. I think what we need to do as a Muslims need to educate the rest of the world. And what the rest of the world needs to do is to listen with open minds and hearts and be fair in their judgments. When September 11 happened, I was in Virginia, Maryland, Virginia, and Virginia both. I lived in Maryland and I studied in Virginia.
Yes.
And the media was extremely focusing how Muslims are, terrorists. And then, but at the same time, in a span of 3 months, we had over 40,000 Americans accepting Islam. So what happened? How could you label the religion of terror and aggression, but at the same time your followers or your citizens are accepting Islam? What the people did, and non-Muslims at that time, they said, we want to know about this religion that is ordering its followers to kill innocent people. So when they went and they researched about Islam and they read about Islam with open minds and hearts, they came to the conclusion this is the right religion, and whatever the media was saying about it is not true. I walked to one of the shops and we were waiting. It was a fast food restaurant, and there was a TV on the wall, and everybody just waiting for their order, and we were lining up in this, waiting for our orders, and then the news, it was CNN, they were saying so many things, and a man behind me, 4 or 5 people behind us, he just shouted and screamed, that is a false statement. And I turned, and I expecting to look like a Muslim wearing a kufi and hat and having beer, but I realized he's not, he's an American. And he said, I just read about Islam, and that's not Islam. So a lot of times, as a Muslims, when we hear the media saying a lot of things about Islam and how they link to terrorists, and we were like, whoa, what are they talking about? Because our prophet, like all the other prophets, he was a messenger of peace. And that's why if you read his biography, you will learn that for 13 years he was preaching in the city of Mecca. He's been abused, misused, beaten, spat on his face. His followers were killed in the city of Mecca. For 13 years, he did not lift a finger to fight against these people. He was preaching the word of peace. And then after 13 years, when his followers and himself, they feared for themselves, he asked them to migrate to another city. And then in that city, You know, the day that he entered the city, he already had thousands and thousands of soldiers are ready to fight along his side to protect him, to show their support. And then the first message that he gave, now imagine yourself, you've been abused for 13 years, your companions and your friends have been killed, and now all of a sudden you have all this power, all these soldiers, all this weapon, and now if you were a simple human may say, you know, it's time to go to work. It's time to get a revenge. But the first statement while everybody was standing, and that was the first speech, the first statement that came out of his mouth, he said, "O people, spread the word of peace." Now, that is the messenger of peace. And Islam, you know, contrary of what the media may say, is a religion of peace, because Islam means submission, means peace.
Right. Then how do we differentiate terrorism from other forms of violence, right? With the modes of activities also and the choices, and the choice maybe of targets. How do you differentiate? We can say this is terrorism and this is another act of violence.
It depends on the it depends on the individuals. I mean, as I said, if someone does something, regardless of his faith, regardless of his color, regardless of his breed, he should be judged based on his crime, not based on his religion. When something Jones, when that guy went in America, he verdict the statement that, you know, I'm going to burn the Quran and every Muslim should be killed. You know, nobody ever labeled him as a terrorist. Everybody say he's a crazy preacher, you know. And yes, the Americans and the Europeans and everybody took a stand and said this is not the right way. But nobody ever, labeled him as a terrorist. When I think Timothy, I forgot his name, from Norway, when he killed over 96 innocent children. You know, nobody ever said he's a terrorist. They just said he's a man who is insane. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, whoever commits a crime is a criminal. We judge him based on his act, not based on his faith or color of his skin.
Right. You know, amongst most of the often quoted scholars and the publication on the causes of terrorism is attributed to Martha Crenshaw. A renowned article of hers, I think, is the causes of terrorism. And in that particular article, she advances that terrorism is a product of rational political choice. Do you hold with that view?
I hold the view that there are always reasons for aggression. There are reasons for violence. And it may not necessarily based on a faith or religion, but based on oppression. And when people feel that they've been oppressed, they react differently. Some of them, they came out to the streets carrying signs and saying this is not fair. Some of them, they stand in front of the cameras and they speak about it. Some of them, they write about it. Some of them, they go out and they try to change it physically. So a sign of oppression, or oppression is what caused all this reaction. That's what I hope. That's my opinion.
Oh, let's now just gravitate deeper and try to look at the genesis of it all. It's a bit hard to try and uncouple terrorism with Islam the way people have now shaped it to be. But you've been in Saudi Arabia, isn't it? And of course, if I may try and compare that with Christianity, we have many Christians, but we have also many doctrines within Christianity. And I believe as well also in the Muslim community, you have the Islamic community, and of course you have different people with different doctrines. You know, they believe this is the way to go. We can take, for instance, the Wahhabis down in Saudi Arabia, where they're the radicals, where they believe Quran should be taken as it is. You know, you don't try and contextualize particular verse. If it is this from the Quran or the Hadith, then that is the way it should go. Don't you think a lot of radicalization is emerging from Saudi Arabia, exported to Egypt? Because we had so many people in Egypt during, this tumultuous time where there is a lot of joblessness and the economy is tanking, and they went to Saudi Arabia and they adopted all these radical teachings from and the beliefs of the Wahhabis and took that to Egypt.
if I ask you the question, what is Wahhabism? If I ask you that question, what would your response be?
Wahhabism, from what I've read, is a sect within Islam that believes in taking the Quran or the Hadith just the way it is. You don't interpret it. You know, if thou shalt, for instance, I'm not saying the Quran says, thou shalt kill. That's the way. There are no ways about it. This is the way to go about it. That's what the Quran says.
But see, that is where the misunderstanding comes. Because there are certain slogans or certain terminologies.
Metaphors as well.
Right, being thrown out there, giving a definition based on those people who have, purpose of throwing those words there. And the common person in any given country, they really, even among the Muslims themselves, they don't know the definition of these terms. If I ask anyone what is Wahhabism, a majority of the people don't know. They think, but the reality of the fact is, in Kenya, like let's start with Somalis. The earliest Somalis, based on the information that I have, came to Kenya in 1886. That was a long time ago, over 100 years ago. The Omanis, they've been here for a very long time. Muslims from India, they've been here the longest almost. They came with the British. Now, all these people, was there any clash? Was there a terrorism? Are we saying all those Muslims who came here, who lived peacefully with the natives, they didn't know Islam? They did not follow the Quran and the Sunnah? All of those people, they were Muslims, and they were, well, I would consider myself a citizen of Kenya. If my ancestors came here in 1886, I would have nowhere else to claim home other than here. Now, those people, they live in harmony with Christians, with any other native faith or religions, and among themselves. So why all of a sudden those people who've been here all the time, all along, living with you in peace, why are they all of a sudden now labeled with a certain label? What I would say is, it's more, hyped issue. The reality is, you are one nation, like it or not. Kenyans are Kenyans from, and I love this diversity. I love it. As I said to a lot of people, I've been traveling around the world, and I've been to many countries, and I never felt home as much as I felt home in this country. It's so peaceful. People, minding their own business, hardworking people, wants to do what is right. And I love that about Kenyans. And I don't mean Muslim Kenyan. I mean all Kenyans, whether they Christians or Muslim or, with from any other faith. And I think, again, I would like to come back to the issue of the conference. I give it.
Yeah, we will talk about that.
What I'm saying is, I think you should bring that harmony back. If you take the matters into your hands and say, listen, we lived together for years, for centuries. We lived together, built this country together. Every street, every corner of the city, every building, there's a Muslim, Christian in other nations, other religions. Why don't we bring that harmony back? Why don't we live together and forget it about, these segments and, information that has been thrown out in the air and then being hyped up about whoever is in charge of that, rumors. And let us sit together. I guarantee you, if you sit with any Kenyan Muslim and you say, what would you like? He will tell you, I want peace and security in this country. I guarantee you, if you sit with any Christian and you say, what would you like? He will say, I want peace and security in this country. Now, if we both have the same aim, why are we speaking in a different direction? Why don't we sit together around the same table and say, let us do something for our country?
But the journey of attaining that particular peace is what maybe we have issues at. right? From the Muslim perspective, the way it is being put. Of course, we have the general view of the Wahhabis with their doctrine of the Tawheed, right? I would love you to tell me then, as a sheikh, because we have sheikhs in this country, and of course we've had expose from journalists, and they've had interviews with sheikh, and we've had them on air saying, you know, tooth for tooth, right? That's the way we will fight this thing. You know, the jihadist war, that is the way we should go. And they're saying, if at all we're going to use guns, then guns will be used. And these are very respected sheikhs in this particular country. We are preaching peace, but is the jihadist way the way to actually achieve that particular peace?
Again, you throw another term and you say Tawheed. What is Tawheed? See, what is Tawheed? And this is what you need to understand. You know, again, these words later on, Tawheed and, you know, Jihad and these, you know, then the definition of these words must be given to the audience so they can understand. Tawheed means to believe there's only one God worthy of worship. That is Tawheed. He's the creator of the universe. He's the one who sent all these messengers to educate us about our faith and our religion. Now, and then you come to the word jihad. What is the definition of jihad? Once again, you know, people only know, you know, one type of definition in terms of jihad. Right now, you're sitting here, you prepare your questions, you thought about the situation, you read my biography, you did your homework. Well, that's the jihad. Now you are mujahid. Now, should I label you as a terrorist? Jihad means to struggle with something, to struggle, or to not struggle necessarily, but to strive towards something. When a student is sitting in class and is doing his homework or her homework, when reading and, you know, submitting those papers on time, she is a mujahid, he's a mujahid, not terrorist. They're just striving to do something good for themselves. Now, jihad, who is entitled to if we're talking in the jihad of the weapon, when is it applicable? When can, and who is entitled to wage jihad or declare jihad? These are the terms that the public, general public must understand. Number one, in Islam, I, as an imam or as a da'iyah, I cannot just sit in front of the camera or sit in front of the Facebook account or in front of YouTube and record and say, you know, we're waging war with jihad against Saudi, jihad against Yemen, jihad against Somalia, jihad against Kenya. It's not going to happen like that. This has to come from a ruler that rules a country, has the full authority of the country. The prime minister or the president of Kenya, for example, if he was a Muslim, now he is in charge of that, and he's the one who's entitled to declare jihad with the scholars and the learned people. They're the one who will decide this is jihad and this is not jihad. When that happens, then there are etiquettes of jihad. Now, when this is in place, then we call, okay, now this is happening. Now, I don't know anywhere in the world that is happening right now. However, if you want to take one person or one scholar or one learned person and you take his little video clip and you say, look what Islam is declaring against us. Well, the question is that statement a fair statement? Is the person who propagating this, is he being fair and just? So this is the situation. Now here in this country, again, everybody's entitled. Any preacher in the church can say, hey, this is what I think and this is what I believe. I read when I was in Canada, it could be anything, but I read one of a preacher said in Kenya, again, because this could be a rumor, that when the women coming to the church, they must dress a certain way, you know, and I'm sure you're aware of that. Now, did we say this is Christianity? And, you know, now every preacher in the country is saying this, therefore the Christianity is corrupted religion, therefore we should fight. No, we didn't. We didn't. We didn't take his statement as a valid statement that every Christian must apply.
Right.
And we did not label every Christian preacher that this is what he believes and this is what they do and look. We didn't. We say this is his statement. Likewise, when a Muslim scholar or a learned person, when he makes his statement, that is his statement.
Right.
That is his view. And as journalists or news, that is where the fairness comes and say, listen, it's one person's statement against many other scholars.
It should not be generalized at all.
We exactly.
Right.
Now, if a young man or young lady, they, for whatever reason, they are followers of that person or they link themselves to that person, again, that person, his individual conclusion will not affect or should not have any impact on the belief of a Muslim, like the followers of that church. I'm sure the followers, they implemented of what their preacher told them. However, we never label them, we should never attack them.
All right, fantastic. Fair enough. And I think, of course, the way you're trying to make it crystal for us here in the morning is not just the only day that you're going to stop talking about it and clarifying it. You have a conference that is coming up, the Journey of Faith. That is why you're in the country. You want to tell us more about this Journey of Faith, the conference itself, and what actually will be the running theme for that particular conference?
Journey of Faith, as you can tell from the title, is a journey towards your faith.
Yes.
And our faith is based on mutual respect towards others, because our prophet, he had neighbors who were Jew and neighbors who were not Muslim. His friends were, some of them were Muslim, some of them were not not Muslim. The people that he dealt with, the people that he bought from, the people that he sold to, the people that, they were all, local people. And we want to relive his legacy, regardless of what other people say, what other labels are being labeled. And we want to show the rest of the world, like Abraham, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, all of those, they came preaching peace, tranquility, and security for all nations. Now, in Islam, this is what we're going to preach. Journey of Faith is a conference that talking about how we can love our prophet, respect his tradition, learn about him, because I guarantee you, contrary to popular belief, that a lot of Muslims, they themselves are not well educated about Islam. And sometimes the action of Muslims may understood that action being part of his faith, where in reality it's springing from his ignorance or lack of understanding or his cultural background and so whatsoever. So in this conference, we have speakers from different backgrounds. We have speakers that, we have local speakers who understand the culture of the country, the mindset of the people, the way they think, the way they react to certain things, and the way they understand. So we have local speakers. We also have speakers from, European speakers who are born, raised, from Europe, originally from Europe, British, originally from UK. We have those who came and wants to address the people. We have speakers, or a speaker from India, completely different continent, with a different background. We believe we have a lot of people here who are from Indian background. We have people from the Middle East, to clarify the idea of Wahhabism. Does it exist to begin with? Or is it just something that, a name that is being created? People, well-learned scholars who can tell you, not from a little YouTube channel, but can tell you, as a Kenyan, this is what Islam is. And I guarantee you, I can guarantee that the sun is going to rise tomorrow from the east, from the east. I guarantee you that if you sit with these people and you listen to them, then you will come out from that meeting, from that sitting with a different perspective.
Right. From the listing of a panel of speakers that I can hear you mentioning, well, it seems it's a wide variety. But who are you targeting? Is it just the Muslim in the countries, or you're targeting as well the scholars that we have also in the universities who are maybe they're not subscribing to Islam, but maybe they're teaching Islam?
Right. We're not only targeting Muslims.
Yes.
We're targeting everyone. As a matter of fact, all non-Muslims are welcome. You know, they're welcome to attend the conference with free admission. They're more than welcome to ask questions. If they want to entertain their curiosity, they want to clarify things, there would be no, you know, fiery debate. Rather, they would be, you know, very comfortable, peaceful, you know, conversation or dialogue. You know, they can ask any question that they want. It's open floor for everyone. And again, they would be treated as VIPs. We're more than happy to receive them as our guests, honorable guests. And in Islam, we were taught by the Prophet that if you believe in God and you believe on the day of resurrection, then you must honor your guests. And we will honor them as we were taught by our Prophet. And again, they can come as many as they want. They can bring their family, they can bring their children, they can bring, everybody is welcome. It's an open house for everyone to come.
Right. Maybe your final thoughts, Sheikh, as we're winding up?
My final thought is, this country is a beautiful country. Beautiful, beautiful country. And the people that I met, you know, Muslim and non-Muslim equal, they are very warm people. And I was telling my brother who was driving me, I said, look at these people. You know, look how, you know, they're serious, minding their business. And I think it would be very sad to spoil that beautiful, you know, atmosphere. I think it would be very sad to see, you know, people fight, one group of people fighting others. This is your country. And you should learn how to live in peace. Like the Prophet, he taught us when he moved to the city of Medina, when he came there, he had a treaty with the Jews, he had with the non-Muslim Arabs, with the Muslims who migrated with him, and the Muslims who were the natives. And the treaty was, you know, let us protect this beautiful city. Let us work for the benefit, for the best and the betterment of the city. And I will say to you the same thing, work for this country. Don't worry about what is happening in America. Don't worry about what's happening in UK. Don't worry about what's happening in Somalia. Don't worry about what's happening in Saudi. Worry about your country. Muslim and non-Muslim alike. Work how to establish peace and sit together. You know, if everybody sits there, you know, in their little corner and they talk about, you know, about what the others are doing to them, we will not reach anywhere. But sit around a round table and discuss the issue. And I'm sure, you know, the Mufti of the country, the scholars of this country, the Christian preachers and the government, the people of authority, if they all sit together, work together, elaborate, then I'm sure they can come out with a beautiful result and resolution for the, you know, whatever we're going through.
Right. You know, I'll be remiss if you don't really mention where also the venue will be and the dates and the times, so that our viewers also can get to know how they can get there and what time.
Right. The venue will be at KICC.
KICC.
And the door will be open by 9 o'clock a.m., 9 to 5 p.m. And, you know, first lecture would be starting, you know, around that time. We have opening and, you know, a few things that has been done. We have, you know, very full day, you know, very exciting day. And again, everyone is welcome. You're welcome to come and to attend and, you know, see Muslims for, you know, talk to them firsthand. And you can ask, you can come and ask all the questions. And, you know, we would love to have you and see you.
Yeah, you've not given us the date.
Oh, the date is 25th and 26th of April, which is the upcoming, I'm sorry, 26th and 27th of April, which is a Saturday and Sunday of this upcoming weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
Sheikh Said Raage, I really do appreciate you coming to put that, you know, notion about terrorism into perspective, trying to uncouple terrorism from Islam the way it has been misconstrued by the mainstream media. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for opening the floor. And that shows open minds and appreciation for what other people do and does. Thank you.
Right, you're welcome. Right, we've been speaking to Sheikh Said Raage, a scholar from Canada, telling us more, I should say, about terrorism and how we can uncouple terrorism from Islam. The misconception that has been there now has been clarified, and of course the conference is coming up over the weekend. You can block your calendar to go and share more with the people there about Islam and how we can
في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب والإخلاص زاد قلوبنا نمضي إلى نور اليقين ونرتقي قمم الفلاح وتاجنا أخلاقنا في ساحة للعلم كنا نلتقي والحب